Well, it's not every day you get to sit in an audience stacked with Olympic medals, no fewer than 6 Olympic medals, attendance of 7 Olympic Games. These three women that we're about to have a conversation with are nothing short of remarkable. And I talk about, oh, what do they know? It's a 15-minute race. I do it for days and months. But the reality is, they do 4 years of preparation for that one moment to shine. And these girls have all done it. They're laden with medals. All of them have an Olympic gold medal. And I'm delighted to have Ellie Aldridge, Hannah Mills, and Helena Lucas join me for this conversation of Britain as an Olympic sailing powerhouse. And this is our rolling out the red carpet for these extraordinary women with gold medals. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
So, as Olympic gold medalists, Ellie, I've got to ask you first, has it actually sunk in? Are you getting used to this phrase of being termed a gold medalist?
I think so, yeah. I think now I am a little bit, but it took a while.
And it's hard because you've literally come in your first Olympics and risen to the top in an Olympic sport that was taking its debut. Like, where do you go from there? That's like a massive step. And that must be the hardest conversation you're having of like, what do you do next?
Yeah, for sure. I guess it's slightly different because everyone that I was racing against, it was also their first Olympics. Because kiteboarding was new, everyone was also new to the Olympic kind of idea of racing at the Olympics. And so I think that's kind of unique in itself compared to the other girls that actually, yeah, I won the first ever gold medal, but I was also racing against everyone that had never been to the Olympics before. So it was very new.
And on contrast to that, I know you're rubbing shoulders a lot with Hannah Mills in Sail GP in the Emirates Great Britain team. So, Hannah, you're like a font of knowledge and, an inspiration to all of us. Do you feel like the person that can kind of let knowledge flow? I mean, you've got 2 gold medals, a silver medal. It's an impressive lineup, and you continue to kind of create pathways for others.
Yeah, I definitely think I've been in a really sort of fortunate in many ways position in like life's about timing often. And for me, obviously finishing my Olympic journey in Tokyo, knowing that that was it. And actually at that point I was like, I'm going to go off and do something else because there wasn't a clear pathway for any female really that wanted a professional career in the sport. So yeah, I had different plans. And then I was just super fortunate that SailGP launched the Women's Pathway program, which is now the Women's Performance Program, and just got to be involved from the off with that, and that and now having done that for a few years, and had some amazing female sailors come along with us, like Hannah Diamond, Nikki Boniface, and others be part of that journey, and now Ellie, and to try and bring more opportunity to more women, and hopefully push SailGP to have more female representation across the board in different roles. And but it's really really tough because the boats, you just barely get any training time on the boats at the moment, for various reasons, and so actually nothing replaces time on the boat. And so it's something we're battling with, isn't it, Els? On the water is just trying to get enough time to feel like we could then get Ellie in a practice race and then do the steps from there. So yeah, I guess long answer, but short story is, yeah, like I definitely am pushing myself obviously to be better in my role, but also my ambition is definitely around trying to provide and create the pathway for the next generations to have more opportunity.
And Helena, you did 3 Olympics. You got a bronze and you got a gold, but you actually haven't stopped because now you are actually coaching the next generation of sailors into their Olympic games. Is it just an addictive drug for you?
Um, I guess so. I think for me, it was kind of the experience and the journey was just so amazing and I learnt so much that I think it's that wanting to give back and help the next generation go and achieve their dream. And I think that kind of is what definitely drives me on. And it's been a really busy year this year, but I've really enjoyed it. And again, I've been fortunate to like work with quite a few different classes, so kind of kicked off with 49er and then FX. I've never stepped in a skiff in my life before, so that was a bit of a baptism of fire. But it's amazing how the skills are transferable, and I think sometimes coming into something like that with a completely no kind of sort of preconceived ideas. So you're sort of coming in kind of completely fresh. You actually bring something new, to a new dynamic to their program, and you might see something that they haven't seen, because it's quite easy to get kind of lost in the trees and lost in the woods, so to speak. And now I'm working with the 470 class, which feels a little bit more a little bit more comfortable. Yeah, I'm like, quite, again, it's like I haven't sailed a 470 for about over 20 years, I think. But I mean, the nice thing is it hasn't massively. It is. It's like I remember this. So it hasn't. But yeah. Luckily, it hasn't massively changed at all. I think for me, like the pumping side of it, that was just being introduced as I stepped out of the class, and now just watching it, God, it's exhausting. It's like absolutely exhausting. So like the physical side of it has changed, and I think the technique, the pumping downwind technique is all kind of evolving, and it's exciting because there's so much. I mean, I think that's the beauty of the boat in a way. I mean, it's been around for blooming ages, and yet there's always something else you can learn, or something else that's a bit different, and another way of making it go faster, which I think is why it's still kind of hanging in as an Olympic class, and obviously the new dynamic now of the mixed teams. That's making it really interesting. And just and again, just kind of seeing that sort of male and female working together, and the different personalities definitely adds another dimension to it all.
Well, as you say, a class that Hannah definitely knows well. You spent a lot of years in one of those boats. What's your feeling about the dynamic now of that mixed crew?
Yeah, I think it's the perfect boat to be a mixed boat, actually. It was amazing for me that there was a female medal and a male medal in the Olympics, and then I think the progression of obviously all the foiling classes and the excitement that's bringing to the sport, but also the 470 has such a good role, I think, in people's kind of learning and journey, and the competitiveness in the class is so strong, and so I think the one medal mixed 470 is awesome, and it almost tempted me back after Tokyo, but not quite.
I think the interesting thing is in the 470 you've definitely got a mix of male and female helms. It's kind of 50-50, which is really good. And again, just seeing the difference, and kind of everyone's got their strengths, and it's really interesting just seeing, and again, it makes it, you have to adapt, so you're kind of watching a video of like maybe Matan in the back of his 470, and then kind of talking to Hannah, not this Hannah, another Hannah, and you kind of say, oh, well, like the Matan's doing this, but then you're like, oh, actually, maybe you need to actually just tweak that a little bit, just because of the different physiques and different strengths and stuff like that.
That's what I like looking at it from the outside. It's really cool because I think I used to think of 470 as like you have to have a really small helm and a really tall crew, and it was the girls' boat and the boys' boat. And now because it's mixed, you've got such a mixture of people and different physiques, different styles of sailing, and different people can make it work. You don't have to just fit the box to sail the boat. You can really work out how you can sail the boat best for your team, which is really cool. I think it's so cool to see the fleet like evolve and keep developing, even though it's been in the games for so long. It's like it's still jumping to the next level.
And Ellie, with the kites, you obviously came to a debut sport, so there wasn't really a format. There wasn't a set, this is what works. So you had to make it up yourself, and you worked with Stevie Morrison, who wasn't in the kites because it didn't exist when he was at the Olympics.
Yeah.
So how did that dynamic work? What does the British sailing do that works, especially like for you coming from a whole new event?
Yeah, I think throughout my kite surfing career, I guess we've kind of had a bit of a, not a short track, but like you're learning so much every year that I think like I started kite surfing properly 6 years ago, and every year it was like almost like you're learning so quickly that you evolve and you figure out like the next best thing to do with the sport, that like you don't like grow out of yourself, but you like kind of turn into a new person every year because you're like I mean, I guess short tracking your like Olympic journey a bit. Like what would normally take people like 10, I don't know, 20 years to get to, we were doing it in like 4 years. And I think that's kind of where I ended up with Stevie, because I got to a point with my racing, I guess, where I felt like I didn't really need necessarily a kite surfing teacher or a coach. I needed someone to help me with the racing side and really pushing myself like any other Olympic sailing discipline. And for, like, me and Stevie worked together really well. I kind of knew him through him coaching the 49er and watching him at the games and things. And I thought we would work together quite well. And it's, for me, it's like a nice balance of, he can really challenge me, he can help me, but also we can really enjoy being on the water and like enjoy pushing it, like, ourselves to the next level. And that was really cool to be able to have the, like, I guess, choice to figure out who I could work best with at the games.
Relationships seem really, really important. And Hannah, you've been through a cycle. You and Saskia Clark was super close, and then you changed partners and delivered again. But there's something about, the success of British sailing, and there's something in the DNA that's more than just racecraft. What would you say it is that makes it successful?
Oh, so much. If that was a one-word answer, I think we'd be selling it for a lot of money, which would be good. I think the history. I think the history counts for an awful lot, and that experience and depth. And for me, through my journey, there was obviously already some superstars that had come through when the lottery funding first came in back in '96, I think, and the Sydney, the Athens, and the Beijing Olympics, and then I kind of started my journey after that. And so we kind of had so much knowledge already accumulated, and so much experience to lean on, and just role models. I think role models in sport are massive, and we were lucky that we had male and female role models in terms of who was winning gold medals and silver medals and bronze medals. So there was no shortage of that. And I think as a youngster coming through, when you've got those people still training, still competing, and you're watching what they do, you're living, breathing, learning, absorbing, I think that counts for an awful lot. And so the fact that we've got 10 Olympic classes, and as a country we compete at the top level in all of them, I just think provides such a solid platform for anyone coming into or wanting to go to the Olympics and be part of that, to learn and grow and do it in the right way. And the same goes for the coaches, the support staff. There's so much transfer of knowledge. So I'd say knowledge, to be honest, is probably our biggest strength.
I think also, I mean, again, Han, you remember, like, we were fortunate obviously to have the likes of Ben and Perce kind of up the tier and stuff, and I think it's that willingness of the experienced sailors to help the youngsters and share the knowledge, and then it's really cool because it's like a snowball effect. So the experienced sailors now, they've learned, they were fortunate enough to learn from like Han and Ainslie and Sass, and because they learn from them, they kind of now in that position where they're happy to help the youngsters coming up, and are approachable and willing to answer questions and help with settings and things like that. And I think it's that culture, isn't it, that's kind of built over the years, and because everyone's been part of it, it's almost when you get to the top, you almost feel like well, hold on, I was massively helped by the guys above me, so actually it's my turn to help the youngsters coming through.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think especially kind of my peers and the people I'm around now definitely appreciate all the help that they got from older sailors, and now we're kind of at, I guess, the older or the bigger top level of the sailing team, and a lot of people around me are very happy to help the young guns and help them learn and upskill them as well. So I think you're right, it just is passing down the generations.
It's lovely because we're seeing, from the outside, the depth of expertise or skill that we're seeing. So it's not just the same names and nobody else, but we're seeing a range of names coming through, which is lovely. But Helena, as a coach now and a former athlete, you've seen the other nations almost learn from the British sailing team, and they're getting closer. So what are you doing that's going to give you the edge for LA?
Yeah, I mean, God, that's that definitely. Yeah. I've got to be careful what I say. I mean, I think Han, like you probably saw it. It's like I'd say, kind of the Sydney Games and probably Athens Games. The British sailing team definitely were a step ahead of the rest of the world, and then I really felt like by London they were starting to catch up. Things like development. I mean, I think where we were really strong is like development programs and also venue knowledge. We'd be like literally the 4-year cycle, the games would finish, and straight away, like Sparky, who's our Olympic manager then, but Mark Robinson now, just straight away out to the next venue, securing training, securing where we're going to launch. Well, we're always ahead of the rest of the world, but they've definitely learned from the British sailing team, and they definitely kind of on it now. So I think it's a case of we just got to keep that going, because it's really, really important. I mean, we're really lucky again, like with support staff, as Han said. We've got some amazing people working behind the scenes, and I think that's a key thing. Doing tide readings. We're currently out in LA right now, doing all this research on the venue, the weather, the tides, just trying to find any patterns to LA, which I think is really, really key. But also, it's other stuff like finding the right accommodation, because that's massive. Where you stay. I mean, for me, was really quite important, because if I was staying somewhere that was pretty, it wasn't very nice, I wouldn't be very happy, and that would have a knock-on effect to my performance. So it's all the small things, and again, just like where the local supermarket is, where the good restaurants are, so that when you go out as a sailor, you've quickly settle into that environment. And I think with the development projects, we've got such good people still inputting into those kind of things. Like Sid Howlett is still very much involved. Persk will come in and say give his opinion, and then like Adam May was with the team right at the beginning, then disappeared off America's Cup. He's now come back, so we've kind of got those minds that are very much thinking about the next opportunity. And like it's so interesting, like with the 470, you're kind of like, oh, it's been around forever, there can't be anything more we can do, and yet there is, and it's amazing. You're kind of like, what are you up to now? It's like, oh, we're doing this, we're doing that, and it's like, okay. And again, like almost, but also revisiting projects that were done before, like the Sensible project. I'm like, God, how many times has that been done? And it's like,
don't bother.
We're there again. And it's like, but again, I think there is, there's learning that was had before, but then there's new thoughts and again, I think it's like new ways of testing the equipment that's developing. So more, I guess, more technical, more accurate ways of testing things that have developed. I mean, if you think about mast bending, where you used to like literally have a bit of whipping twine, the mast supported on a trestle, you're hanging weights off it, and now there's a machine that does all that. So I think technology has helped, has evolved, which I think that's one of the things that as a team we're really good at. So I think it's the venue preparation and the venue knowledge, and I think we're just always managing to be that step ahead in terms of development and projects that we can actually go away and do. And Ellie, like, I mean, Linton and Adam, I mean, a massive part of like kind of foils and your program, and just I think making sure the kit is absolutely spot on and perfect, and we've got a brilliant team that
details. One word answer: details. We're good at the details, aren't we?
Had it summed up like what I've just waffled on in about 5 minutes. Exactly that, isn't it? The details. Yeah.
Just because it was really funny, Helena, you said it was about the peripheral things, like where you stayed, what you ate, all those little details that are kind of outside of the race course that made a difference. And I just wondered, I want to take you back to your gold medal winning moments. Hannah would do your first gold medal, because she just got so many to choose from. But Helena, it was home waters. So was it the fact that you knew all these peripheral things, so you were super comfortable and therefore could just perform, or was it a case of 12 years of preparation and your third Olympics, and you knew how to get a gold medal by then?
No, it was kind of the first thing. I think, big thing for me was just normalising the regatta. So Beijing had been a bit of a disaster, and again there was lots of things that were wrong, and again you learn. I learned so much from that and try to avoid making the same mistakes. But I think with London, it was about, I don't know, most of the time it's about stopping the nerves and just going. For me, it was about, this is just another regatta. Obviously, it's not, but that was kind of my way of just kind of calming down, stopping the nerves, and just staying focused. So again, I'd be out on the water and I'd be like, "Oh, look, my house is up there," and it was just things like that. And again, I mean, the RYA and the British sailing team are just fantastic about creating that environment as well. It's like, crazy enough, we stayed in Portland House and the Olympic Village was literally next door, but it's like, no, we're not staying there, because they're really good at creating a bubble and putting you inside that bubble, and it's kind of to make sure, kind of to protect you from the noise outside, make sure you don't get ill. I mean, I think there were, because again, like living with a load of other athletes, you haven't got control over kind of the hygiene in the canteen and things like that. So that was another reason for just staying in Portland House. And again, I mean, for all of us, like, it was like almost like a second home. So a number of times, you stay there, it was so familiar. And I think it was all those little things. Obviously, lots, good lessons learned from Beijing that also helped. But I think I just felt so comfortable in my environment, and I could just really normalise it and go, you know what, it's all cool. It's my house is just up there, and I think that also the British people, the support from the British people was just amazing as well, and that just made it feel, I think, that little bit more special.
Nice. And Hannah, your first gold medal, so you'd had your silver medal in London, and I guess that was a catalyst to, kick up the bum of, okay, I've got to do one better. But can you talk to me about the gold medal winning moment, you and Saskia?
Yeah, well, it was so different. So, obviously my first games was London, and we got the silver, and we were pretty devastated because it's an Olympic Games, and you're like, well, I might never be in a position to potentially win a gold medal again. This could have been it, and we felt like we'd blown it. So that took a while to get over and to revamp and go for Rio, and then Helena's just talked about all the things that were amazing about London. Like as an athlete, it was just like everything you could dream an Olympics was going to be, just the crowds, the vibe. It was a circus, and I kind of took the opposite approach to Hannah. I just was like, this is amazing. Like, if nothing else happens, I've been to London, I've experienced the Olympics, and that's amazing. And so that's how I guess dealt with the pressure of that, was just to be like, whatever happens, this is the most amazing experience, and I'm going to enjoy every second. And then for Rio, it was completely different. We were away games. There was actually a lot of sort of tension in Rio around the Olympics, because a lot of people don't have very much out there in terms of food, and then there's this huge Olympics happening, and they're like, well, hang on a second, like, that's not right. And so there was a lot of kind of graffiti and negativity towards the game. So it was a totally different environment. And so for us with that, it was like, how do we make it feel like an Olympics again? Because it kind of didn't, like, the venue wasn't finished. It didn't feel like London had. And so that was kind of a different challenge, was right. And in my head, I was like, none of this matters actually when it comes down to it. All that matters is I get on the water and I deliver the best possible result I can. And yeah, for us at that point, gold was kind of the only thing we were aiming for. And so we did do a bit more of a Helena, I guess, in that one, in that we ignored all of the noise and we just were focused on delivering our best possible performance and not worrying about all the other stuff that was going on in the background.
Han, did you? It's funny because going into Rio, I think I sort of managed my expectations of, like, this is not going to be London. It is going to be different. Were you kind of the same of, London was so special, wasn't it? It was.
Yeah. No, we were, for sure. And we spent so much time in Rio. It's the most amazing place, and probably the most beautiful place on the water, looking back at the topography and the land. Like, it's stunning. and some of the most amazing sailing conditions. So yeah, in terms of the sailing venue, it was just incredible. And yeah, we definitely spent as much time as we could there. Obviously, trying to make it feel a bit like a home away from home is kind of always the vibe. But yeah, it wasn't the same for lots of different reasons. And so at some point, you've got to just accept the scenario you're in, because you can't spend all your life trying to make the exact same scenario as you had in London. That's not going to happen. And ultimately, you're actually just there to go do a boat race and try and win.
That's understatement of the day, I think. Olympic medal. Or just go do a boat race, it'll be fine. So, Ellie, your experience of a gold medal moment is really recent. Talk to us about Marseille and how that felt and the process of, that winning moment.
Yeah, I guess Marseille is the closest we can get to home games without being at home. So it was actually really nice because it's not very far away. We actually did spend a lot of time training there beforehand and in previous years. And for everyone that's been to Marseille will know that it can be a really tricky place to sail. And especially for kites, quite often, I mean, you can get any wind direction there, whatever you get. And quite often it can be really tricky for the kite to stay in the sky. So we had quite a few trips where we literally came back and we were like, this is going to be awful. If it's like that at the games, it's going to be really awful. But I think after spending a lot of time in somewhere, kind of like what Han was talking about with RYA, you got to learn to make it what you can and like learn to love it. Like the first ever trip I did there was, yeah, I think we were swimming every single day. We swam in and there was no wind and it was awful and everyone just really didn't enjoy it. But I think you kind of just got to learn to love it and learn to make the most of what it can be. And actually, I really did. I really loved it. I loved the venue. I loved looking back at all the clunks and the hills in the background, and it was really special. But also, it was close enough to home that loads of friends and family could come over and watch. So that felt really special that people could come over, and not even just like your friends and family, like random sailing fans that wanted to come and watch the Olympics. It became way more accessible for anyone to just take a quick trip down to south of France and watch the games, which was really cool. And I think also where we were on the beach, obviously we launched from a beach and we go off into the sea, but we had a big spectator zone right around our launching area. So every time you went and put your kite up and you went out or you came in to swap kites, everyone was there cheering you, which was insane, but also really different to anything I'd ever experienced before, because we don't normally get a big crowd watching our racing. And I actually remember our practice day. So we were racing in the second week. We were like the last class to start. And because the wind had been a bit light and a lot of classes were on the inner courses, we weren't actually allowed to do much training before the Olympics. So we had one day, the day before our racing started, to go on the water. And I'm actually so grateful we had that day, because I remember we were just going out, launching our kites, going on the water. And I remember the first kite went in the sky and the first person went out on the water and the whole crowd just cheered. And it made me really nervous. I don't know why, because I was literally just going out to like do a bit of training before literally for like an hour, just to check in and make sure I was okay. But that was really cool. And I think that's something that's so unique about being at the Olympics or being at an event where you have a big spectator crowd. And that was so nice. And it gave me a little warm up of what was to come for the actual racing and having all the crowds there and everything.
And I think, just following on from Hannah, like embracing everything about an Olympics, I think I remember you went to the opening and the closing ceremony.
Yeah, I did. Same, same as Han. It's my first Olympics, and you never know. Like, it might be your only chance to go to the Olympics. Especially like coming from the UK, like we've got such competitive fleet everywhere. You can't take for granted just being there. And as well for Stevie, like who was coaching me in there at the games, he'd never been to an opening ceremony before. But because we were racing in the second week, And I had so many days, and because we knew we weren't going to get much training time in, I was kind of more so for like just getting out and doing something and not going stir crazy in the hotel waiting. And also, yeah, for me, it's like I really wanted to finish it, like begin it and finish it in Paris, and go to the opening ceremony, be like, okay, this is the Olympics, this is the opening of the Olympics, and then go back down to France, do your racing, and then the whole team after the Olympics went up for the closing ceremony, which was really nice. But for me, it's like that whole experience and making the most of everything. And actually, you've done all the hard work beforehand. When you're there, you've just got to go through, enjoy it, enjoy like the pressure, enjoy everything that comes around the Olympics. So I really wanted to do that.
I think that was a little bit candid, actually. She said, did you catch that? She said, one, it was my first Olympics, implying there will be others. And then it was like, but you never know whether you're going to get the opportunity. So I think, Ellie, we just realised where you'll be in 28.
I think that's so important. I mean, I had such good advice from Ian Barker, who was my coach at the time, that he just said, enjoy every moment. And again, like Ian just said to me, like after the games and everything, he just said, go to everything. Like in the ones that you think, you get to a point, both, you get to a point, you are just invited everywhere to everything, and you get to a point like you get a bit worn out, and you're like, I can't be bothered. And I remember Ian saying to me, it's the ones that you think that are going to be rubbish that end up being amazing. And he was so, I just went to absolutely everything, and I'm so pleased that I did, because it'd be so easy to just go, oh no, God, not another invite to whatever. But they end up being so much fun.
And Hannah, you did 2020 was actually 2021 and a little different. Tell us about, it was a gold medal winning moment, but so different, I could imagine.
Yeah, it was mad. I think the COVID games, it was the first thing, one of the things that I remember vividly from like pre-London preparing for the games, of like the games moves for no one. So this is your start time. This is when you need to be ready. And that is that. And you're like, okay. And then you get to Tokyo, and oh, by the way, it's going to be a year later. Okay, cool. So that was pretty bizarre. And especially for me, knowing it was going to be my last games, I was like, well, first of all, there's kind of like a lot of feelings of, well, first it was stressful because obviously COVID, no one knew what was going to happen, and it was really scary. And yeah, it was just all the unknowns. And then your mind goes to, what if the Olympics gets cancelled entirely? Like that would be pretty soul destroying, having put so much work in for something. And then the announcement that it's got moved a year, and then the emotion of, I was retiring after this. Oh my God, I've got to go for another year. Okay. And then I just got to a point where I was like, this is like the best thing ever, because I get to do a whole nother year of the most amazing thing in the world, which is trying to train for an Olympics. So just turned it into the biggest positive, and it was the biggest positive. And I still today don't know if we would have won had it been in 2020. The stuff we did in that last year, training wise, just completely changed everything about how we sailed the boat and how we raced. It was the most amazing year, and I feel so lucky to have had it. And then obviously the build up to Tokyo was just so stressful, because it was kind of when like the country was almost opening again. So everyone was socializing and everyone wanted to do lots of things, but we couldn't, because it was like, if you get COVID, you can't go. That's it, point blank, you're not going. And there's no, like, even if you pass a test 2 weeks later, you can't come. So it was incredibly stressful just getting there. And once the British sailing team again had done the most amazing job of getting our own kind of bubble, we had our own, I think it was like a conference centre type thing, but had lots of bedrooms. And so we had our own space, just the British sailing team. And there was like 45 of us in there, because we had extra support staff because we couldn't have outside help and things. So there's this really amazing big team. And it was the most incredible games experience, I think, in terms of like the team, just because we were there in those bizarre circumstances. There was no friends or family could come, like we were all each other had. And so it was really, really special in that respect. And then I remember sitting there one day with Ainslie in the build up, and we had a visit from Mark England, who's the chef de mission for Team GB, come in to kind of do his like prep talk to everyone and get us all G'd up. because we were kind of a satellite village, I guess, away from the main team GB. And then at the end of it, he told me I was invited to carry the flag at the opening ceremony in Tokyo, and I was just like, I think I burst into tears. Actually, it was like super emotional. Ainslie jumped on me, and then I was like, well, I'm not going unless Ainslie can come, because if I'm going to get COVID, she can get COVID too. But there was like the whole should we go, because obviously you're then in a different environment and there's other people to consider. But ultimately we'd done so much prep at this point that we thought we could mitigate the risks, and Ainslie did come with me because it was her at the first Olympics, so I wanted her to experience the opening ceremony. So yeah, it was a very different games, but I don't know if it was my favorite, but it was unbelievable just how we pulled together as a team for that games. It was very cool to be a part of.
It was super interesting the way you said that extra year actually completely developed and changed the way you sailed as a team.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think you're always up against time. Time's your biggest enemy in any of these types of projects. We all know that from Olympics or other sailing or any project you're trying to do. You're always against the clock, and so you're always prioritizing and trying not to go down rabbit holes and lose time to doing things that aren't going to make a difference. And for us, I'd say the medal race was probably always our like Achilles heel, almost, of like getting it wrong or making the wrong decision in that final moment of who we need to control versus what does control look like on another boat. And so that extra year gave us that time to we brought in a guy called Andy Corner, who's a total legend, like one of the nicest, most amazing guys who came in. He's a really good team racer, actually, a match racer. And that was something we'd never done before. And we kind of knew if we sailed well, the likelihood is we'd be in a medal race scenario where we had to beat another boat, or we had to put a few boats between us and another boat, or something like that. And so we just spent that whole year almost preparing for any of those types of eventualities with Andy, and we had an amazing like 7-boat British 7470 squad who was just incredible coming along to help us do that, and Luke and Twigs, obviously, who were the guys competing, doing it as well. And yeah, I think it totally changed my sailing, actually, just having that totally different input from Andy on all the team racing and match racing and the scenarios. And yeah, it's just that control versus not when you haven't got control, and being really open in the boat about where you are and what you're trying to do. And yeah, it was amazing. So I feel very fortunate in many ways to have had that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, super cool. Ellie, you're kind of out there on your own. These girls generally have someone with them, or Helena didn't, but there's boats around. The kites look like they're super on top of each other, but actually you have a little bit of space. But how aware are you of the others? Like, how much do you go into that controlling mode that Hannah just spoke about, or are you just outright to win and everyone else needs to follow in your wake?
No, you do have to be very aware of everyone around you. I mean, I guess, yeah, when we're racing, we're going super fast. Everyone's going really fast. And if someone makes a mistake, quite often that ends up with a lot of collateral damage, and you might end up in a tangle or whatever. So you have to have a lot of confidence in the people around you as well, I think. But it's kind of mutual confidence between different kiters on the water. But then also, yeah, like we're on our own. We've got our coaches in the boat, but we don't often see them, or you don't have time to see them or whatever, or you've only got a certain amount of time to quickly get a drink and a bit of info between races, and then you're kind of on your own. So it is a very like, I think, very independent sport. And you've got to.
Sorry, Ellie, to interrupt. Would you say, as a class, you're actually quite close? Are the sailors actually all, do you actually get on quite well with the other sailors?
Yeah, I think as well, in like kite surfing as a sport, like we basically, you have to have someone to help you launch and land your kite on the beach. And I think that fundamental like necessity to have someone with you creates kind of a bit of a relationship between training partners and between friends. Like you can't really just go out on your own. You've got to have someone with you. And that, especially within our training group, within the sailing team, like we created a really, really good tight group of girls who we would train together every single day and share information and learn from each other as well, because when we were getting into it, there weren't many experts in the sport. Like we were learning as much as anyone else was learning. So you really had to challenge yourself and challenge each other. And the best way to do that is with people going through the same thing as you are. So I was really lucky that we all got on really well, and we all trained together really well, and we'd look out for each other on the water as well. Like, there is a safety element of that, and as well as like training and pushing each other. And I honestly think that was our whole mentality throughout our whole campaign, was like, we all want to go to the Olympics, but at the end of the day, like, we've got to push each other so that whoever goes to the Olympics has the best chance of winning. And then that's like thanks to everyone. And I think the other girls are pretty aware of that. Like, I definitely couldn't have done it without them, and I'm very grateful for everything that we all went through as a team. And those are the memories that will live with you forever as well. It's like, it's not just the moment where you come in on the beach and you've won, but it's all of the journey, everything you go through, all the good times, all the bad times in Marseille when you're all swimming home and you're just hating it, and then the good sessions you have together that are just amazing, and like, you just feel like you're on top of the world. That's really, it's just special about the whole journey and everything.
I'm guessing that's where the British sailing is so strong, because of our depth of talent. So you train and push each other, because obviously only the best get to go to the games.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you look at the 470 squad that have all just basically finished their year, and heap of them are all in the top 10 medaling at events and things. And I think that's what's really great about the British sailing team, is pushing everyone, like, not just trying to find one person that's really good, is the depth and the amount of good sailors.
So with that competition around, Hannah, you've spoken openly before about the amount of pressure you put on yourself to be the best, or to win the gold medal, or to make sure you're the one selected to go. How does that manifest itself? Like, was that healthy, or did you, maybe push too hard at times and struggle?
It's hard, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I think anyone trying to achieve something that very few people get to do and get to achieve is super hard, and comes with a lot of pressure. But I think it's always about managing the load, and you can't live with that pressure for 4 years or 8 years or whatever, or you would fall apart and it wouldn't end well, that's for sure. And so I always think the best Olympic sailors are the ones that are the best at peaking and managing, when you're ramping up and when you're really trying to deliver, and really understanding that this is a phase of we're trying to deliver and what that looks like, and then learning from that to go into the next thing. And obviously, with the way the Olympic cycle's set up, it's kind of easy to phase that, in terms of you have your world championships that obviously everyone wants to do well at because of funding and because it's a worlds, and then you have the selection trials, which is almost harder than the Olympics often for the British sailing team, I'd say, because there is such depth. You kind of know as a British sailor, if you get to the Olympics, you've always got a good shot of a medal, because just to get there, you've got to beat some of the best people in the world in your own country. And I think that trials is such a good test of dealing with the pressure and trying to peak for something. And I think that in itself, for anyone in the UK trying to go to Olympics, just coming through the other side of that is massive. But yeah, it's not realistic to think you're going to go and win every event of an Olympic cycle. We've seen some sailors manage to do that, and that's just mad. But definitely for me, the way I managed it was like being really, really clear as a team of like when we're pushing to perform and when we're training and when we're phasing things, or when we're trying equipment out, and so how that would impact performance. You're always trying to deliver, I guess, your best result, but with some parameters sometimes of, okay, we've got a new mast on, right, we're going to go and race with this mast. It might feel a bit slow, it might feel really fast, we don't know, but we're still going to deliver in terms of our communication and our race strategy, and we're not going to get distracted by the new mast. But it's going to be a learning point, and that's a slightly different focus. And so yeah, I don't know if I've answered your question, to be honest, but
It's interesting, because obviously outsiders look at results, and as you say, if you're testing a new parameter and actually you're focusing on, well, we've got to test this, but we just work on our communication or our racecraft, the results don't necessarily reflect the learnings from that regatta, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
It's about kind of giving, yeah, you have your process regattas, don't you, and your kind of your outcome regattas where you are obviously focused on getting the result, and it is allowing yourself to have that process regatta and go, no, we are going to work on starting, or we are going to test kit, and it's really hard, isn't it? Because like the reason we do it is because we want to win, but and I mean it was really interesting for me, like with Rio, obviously London had a really quick boat, and we'd done like lots of stuff and lots of tweaks and stuff to it, and so Ian, my coach, would not let me. I was not allowed to use the fast boat. He purposely made me use the slow boat, and it was really tough, and it was really hard. And he was like, "I don't want you to win. I don't want you to win. You can. I'm happy if you come in the top three, but you're not allowed to win." Because again, I don't know whether you had this, Han, after Rio, but again, it was almost like he didn't want me to be the target. He's like, if you keep winning, everyone's going to be watching what you're doing. Everyone's going to be looking at your boat. They're going to be, very much, you are going to be, their focus. And he's like, I don't want you to be their focus. We want to just quietly be working away in the background on other stuff. And for me, it was really hard because I kind of just got used to winning, and then it's like, now you're telling me you don't want me to win. I don't get it. But it was hard, but it did make sense as well. So yeah, we kept quite a few things. I think my games bait we didn't roll out until I think maybe early spring was the first time I was allowed to actually use it in competition and stuff. But I think it's that confidence of like, no, this is the right program. I know what I'm doing it for the right things, and just blocking out the noise and what other people think. I've come 10th, and it just doesn't matter what other people think. You're on the right journey.
Quite an emotional games for you, Helena. You medalled, but that was the end of sailing in the Paralympics. And I know the fight isn't over, more determined than ever to try and get it back in. Talk to us about that moment and the frustration and where we are today.
Yeah, it was an interesting one because I think I'd already made my mind up that Rio was going to be my last games, and I was going to retire after Rio. And then obviously I remember, I think we were in Miami actually, so it would have been January time. We heard the announcement that was it. Sailing was not going to be in the Paralympics, and it was kind of a mix of emotions. Like, I guess my first emotion was like, okay, that makes it really easy. I definitely can't go back. But then I think the next emotion that I had was just thinking about all my competitors, and and again I was kind of thinking about Meg, and it's like Meg had played second fiddle to me, for the last couple of games, and it's like, I saw that was Meg's opportunity taken away, and there were other sailors in the team that, like Will, who was sailing the Scud and just improving so much, but also for so many of those sailors, it was their life. It really was their life, and a lot of the time it's kind of what motivated them. And it was just like, wow, what such a shame that has been taken away, and that opportunity is being taken away. And I think sailing in particular in the Paralympics is so special because it is like an even playing field. It doesn't matter, especially like with the 2.4, it doesn't matter what disability you have. It's an even playing field because you can adapt the boat. And we see it in the open world where we have 100 boats on the start line, probably 30% will be parasailors and the rest are all able-bodied, and within the results you'll probably have at least 5 or 6 parasailors in the top 10, and it's amazing that you have that opportunity to be able to compete on an even playing field. And I think that was the real shame. I guess one of my arguments is when it got pulled, I was like, well, why don't you just put the 2.4 into the Olympics then, and decide who's gonna represent you. Yeah, I think it'd be awesome. It could be an able-bodied sailor. They might, again, it comes down to who's the best sailor. It completely takes away disability or gender, and age. So it's amazing, and you go, well, who's the best sailor? Right, they're going to go. So yeah, as you said, the fight is still on. I'm just kind of keeping fingers crossed. and yeah, world sailing are still fighting hard. I think the good thing is country participation is up, which is brilliant. And that was kind of a big sort of stumbling block. Was, I think we got replaced by blind football or something like that, and it's like it's with football there's a massive reach across the world, because it's easy to just go and play football, whereas obviously with sailing there's a lot more cost involved, and so it was trying to make sailing more accessible to countries that obviously maybe had the perception that it was too expensive to do it. And I think Hannah Stodall has done an amazing job of just opening it up and just getting a much bigger country participation, and just fingers crossed and just hope that at some point it gets reinstated.
Situation, and the sport as it is with the Olympic setup is always in a different location, which people argue about, but then so is horse riding, and so many other sports. So I think it's interesting how this will evolve, and I know that the venue for LA has already been decided and people are looking at it, and it is the same place as the open water swimming, and lots of other events are using the same venue. So I think it can only help the argument for sailing as a sport, and we know the difference it makes to Paralympic sailors.
Yeah, no, I think in a minute, I think LA is going to be really exciting. The fact that actually you have got so many other sports actually on the same stretch of water. Like, for once, I think it will be quite nice not to feel alone. And I mean, one of the questions I was going to ask you both was, it is quite strange, isn't it? Because often sailing is separate with a satellite venue, that you don't see the rest of Team GB until you go up for the closing ceremony. And I remember, I think it was in Beijing, like all the sailors would all go up for the closing ceremony, and all the sailors ended up sitting on the same table, like we'd be sitting with the Norwegians and the French, because we knew each other better than we knew anybody in our own team. And sometimes, and I think with London, I made a bit of an effort to kind of try and change that, but it's hard because you only get to see everybody at the end, and then I guess when you get invited to Buckingham Palace and things like that, and that's your chance to sort of try and reach out and make friends with the other athletes that are part of your country. But it is quite weird, isn't it? I don't know how you guys, Ellie, was it a bit different? I guess you were still down in Marseille, so.
Yeah, it was quite nice. Again, going up for the opening ceremony, I kind of got to meet a few people and made friends with some other people from sports that I could then see at the end, which was nice. But you're so right, like, and I think it's the same in most sports as well. Like, you do end up congregating with the people you know. But I think the Olympics is a really cool opportunity to meet lots of different people around the UK from different sports. And I think also in the nature, like, we're down in Weymouth with our Olympic training base, that is also kind of satellite compared to a lot of other sports in the UK that all share facilities. But yeah, I think it's you have to push yourself a bit, don't you, to try and make new friends. Yeah.
It'd be so hard though. Imagine being like, the village is nuts. The Olympic village is literally nuts. Like, it's so big. There's so many people. Everywhere you walk, you're just like in awe of just incredible athletes that you've watched compete in different sports. And like, I don't even know if I'd be able to compete if I stayed in the Olympic village. It'd just be such a distraction.
Yeah.
I love it, the honesty. Everyone's in awe of you as well when they see you.
Oh, yeah.
So you've alluded to it, all of you have alluded to it, but since, being a gold medal winner and a sporting celebrity that's now well known, because we love our Olympics and we love success, the weirdest thing you've been asked to do, or the strangest place, or the strangest present? I mean, I guess there's a lot, that some of the things you've done where you've been like, I can't believe I've got to do that. I mean, or the coolest. I mean, name dropped Buckingham Palace there quite easily, didn't you, Helena?
I think it's bonkers, isn't it? It's like I think I went there about 3 times in the 1 year. It was just crazy.
Just a local resident, going and having a coffee.
Yeah, it's fine. I didn't need to be shown. I know my way.
Yeah, I do remember going on the chase. That was pretty wild, and very stressful. I'm pretty nervous going on the chase.
That is super cool.
Yeah, it was no, it was like a charity one. So, but I didn't beat the chase there, which was a bit of a bummer. So, got knocked out. I mean, stuff like that's always a bit nuts, where you're just like, "Oh, what am I doing? This is so bizarre." But like Helena said, like just say yes, and the rest will figure itself out. It doesn't matter if you make a total wally of yourself. Just crack on, have a go, because it's not gonna, it might not happen again.
Yeah, that was really cool as well, because also I just get excited if a question comes up about sailing, let alone actually having a sailor in place. So that is quite exciting. What about you, Ellie? What have you been asked to do in the last year?
Oh, I'm not as much as Hannah, I don't think. I'm not.
You need a few more medals to get Hannah's in.
Yeah, exactly. I think that they're going to Buckingham Palace is really cool, and that's also another time where you get to see all the other medalists as well. And you actually, every time you go to an event with medalists or with Team GB, you kind of see the same people again, and then you can actually start to like make friends with people, and then chat to them about their journey and things like that. So that was, yeah, that was probably the coolest thing, I think.
So the message you would give to your younger self, or imagine, the 12-year-old version of you is listening to this. What's your message you would have given with all these years of wisdom that you have now? Ellie, you want to start with you?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
can't remember being 12.
That's why I thought I'd give you more time to think, Helena.
I would say I have thought about this before actually. I think just work hard towards what you want. I think when I was 12 I still watched the Olympics, and I remember I was probably a bit older than 12 when I went to 2012 to watch the Olympics in Weymouth. But that, to me, even then, that was totally I loved it and I was inspired by everyone there, but I had absolutely no like no idea how I was gonna ever try and go to the Olympics. It feels so far away and so out of your outside of your ability. But I think if you really, yeah, I think if you really, really want something and you really figure out how to do it and work hard at it, then it can happen. You've just got to make yourself do it. You've got to work hard and have a vision and have that goal, and it's always got to be in your mind, kind of like what we were saying before, you're always doing something towards it, even if it's little things to begin with. But if you've got that clear goal, you just got to keep it in your mind, and no matter what the setbacks are, just keep going.
Nice. Hannah?
Oh, mine. I've probably got two. Probably one would be just don't lose the fire. I think, particularly for girls, you can get a bit sort of crushed, and some of the sass and some of the, you know, what makes you you can sometimes get pushed out. And so definitely just keep being you, and don't lose the fire. And then the other one would be just do not stop asking questions. Never be too shy to ask a question. And whatever the answer, there'll be something in there that you can learn from, even if you don't necessarily agree with the answer.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
And what would you tell your 12-year-old self?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of what these guys have said. I think the big one is enjoy it, and don't lose the enjoyment. I think as soon as you lose the enjoyment, you might you might as well stop. And I think it's sometimes it is tough. It will be a really tough journey. But if you believe in yourself and you really want it, just keep pushing. And I think it's a case of stick to the priorities. Don't get sidetracked by noise and what other people are doing. If you're really focused and you're focused on you and you believe in yourself, just keep pushing.
Such true words spoken from true heroines. I think you've been an absolute inspiration. I love following your progress, and the exciting thing is there's still so much going on with you guys. And the fact that Ellie, you're now working with Hannah, and I strongly think we'll see you in LA in 2028 as well. And Helena, the next generation of Hannah Mills is on a 470 are in your hands, so do a good job. No
pressure.
Thank you for listening, and join us next week where we have a special interview with the greatest Olympic sailor of all time, Sir Ben Ainslie.